Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back with another video from Too Spooky. I'm still dog sitting, there is a dog in the background. I don't know if she's gonna like jump in the way or anything, she might be a bit shy. She's starting to actually spend time with me, it's quite nice. But we're checking out the top 10 best devil fruits in One Piece. And knowing Too Spooky, he'll go into a bit more of an explanation as well as how the devil fruits work in that. And I like that, because I'm a bit stupid. So I like things to be explained to me. So let's get into the top 10 best devil fruits in One Piece, shall we?
Number 10. The Bari Bari no Mi, or Barrier Fruit.
The barrier fruit.
This devil fruit
This is something else.
Bartolomeo. This devil fruit is a paramecia type that allows the user to create indestructible barriers of varying shapes and
and he can
sizes,
put them on his body and like use them to
fingers.
attack people and
From
that and push
every
people
instance
away.
we've seen, these barriers have in fact been indestructible. And until we see otherwise, I think it's safe to keep that assumption. I've already made an entire video going over this fruit's abilities along with what they potentially could do. So if you're interested in my entire opinion on
that
this
is going to be an interesting video.
Check out that card in the top right hand corner of the screen, but I'll go over my main points here regardless.
Cool.
At first glance, this devil fruit probably isn't one that most of you would dub one of the 10 best in the series. But
what do you think of what it can
out.
do? Yeah, okay.
So just with its standard usage, you can create large indestructible barriers to protect you from any attacks, which also includes creating a spherical barrier that can trap you inside, meaning that you could also protect yourself from things like harmful gases. But in addition to that, you can propel these barriers forward,
so you can attack people with them.
At people as a weapon.
And they're indestructible.
You can use these barriers to squash people,
squash people away.
Morph these barriers into many different shapes. So essentially, my main reason for believing this one is one of the best is because it's basically the ultimate defensive ability.
It is, but you can use it as a...
That being said,
you can
that alone
defend
is not enough
and attack with
me to
it.
believe this belongs in the top 10. Instead, I believe the true potential of this ability comes from the ability to morph these barriers into different shapes. I talked in depth about this in my video about the Bari Bari no Mi, but basically I believe this devil fruit could be so much more deadly if the user could morph the barriers
oh my god, yeah, can you imagine?
Objects,
Jesus.
which is something we haven't seen Bartolomeo do just yet. Now, it's certainly possible that this ability can't be used to create sharp objects,
but we don't know.
In which case this fruit wouldn't actually be worthy of the top 10. But this theory has not been confirmed nor denied. So if it could, this devil fruit could be borderline unstoppable.
It'd be ridiculous, wouldn't it? Yeah,
have a massive shield that can protect you from anything, and I mean anything. But if you equip that shield with large spikes, that shield becomes an unstoppable weapon.
Yeah.
You could propel it into
you can't break it.
With great force in the form of a barrier crash, skewering them upon impact, or even create things like a barrier sword, which could even go up against the world's greatest swordsman, assuming that you also had the sword skill to back it up.
Yeah.
And these ideas are just scratching the surface of how many deadly objects you could create with these barriers. Then you also include the fact that these barriers can be manifested invisible, meaning your opponent wouldn't even see these attacks coming. 1 second,
crazy actually when you think about it, yeah.
And the next thing you know, an invisible spike wall crashes into you with full
It is cool
force.
that he can equip it onto himself as well when he's hitting them. That's cool.
Bartolomeo could essentially take out an entire army of individuals all by himself, possibly even with a single attack. In addition to that, if he was able to meticulously craft these barriers, he could also create something like an indestructible barrier mech and just go around beating the shit out of people with no threat to the user's own body because nobody can break through the barriers. So it's essentially like indestructible armor with weapons on it that are also indestructible. So basically, this devil fruit is already the ultimate defense, but with enough creativity.
I apologise for the noise in the background now. The extractor fans for the building have been turned on.
And for that reason, I believe it more than deserves to be on this list.
Definitely.
Number 9.
Number 9.
Mochi Mochi no Mi, or Mochi Mochi.
Oh, that's the one that Katakuri has, isn't it? Yeah.
Was consumed by Charlotte.
I would like a better explanation on this one.
This devil fruit allows the user to create, control, and transform their body into mochi, which is essentially a very sticky, sweet paste. This devil fruit is a special paramecia, even though it has the general characteristics of a Logia. In general, this devil fruit would probably be overlooked, very similar to Luffy's devil fruit. However, because of how creative Katakuri is with this devil fruit, it's actually a lot better than you might expect. I won't be going over everything because this
you can train, you can learn
but some of the things to note
further
are as follows.
the abilities, can't you?
The sticky aspect of the Mochi is great for slowing down or even trapping enemies, to the point where you could just straight up suffocate them in a pile of Mochi.
Oh my god.
The thick liquid form of Mochi is great for mimicking almost anything, including weapons or even an enemy's physical abilities, such as copying Luffy's Gear 3rd techniques or his Gum Gum Gatling techniques, meaning this Mochi can be used in ways to directly
then add his ability to see into the future
just
5 seconds, like Jesus.
Attack once, giving it a wide variety of potential offensive techniques, many of which we haven't even begun to think of yet. These attacks can also be imbued and compressed with Haki, making them even stronger.
So you say the user definitely
like
needs to be taken into consideration.
It literally explodes, sending a flaming Mochi fist at his opponent with great speed and force.
Boom.
Because the user's body is also made of Mochi, this allows them to turn into Mochi to avoid attacks.
To dodge stuff,
advanced observation Haki, which allowed him to see into the future, made this particular ability even more impressive. But at its base level, it's still a great way to avoid attacks in general. If all that wasn't enough, this fruit also has an awakening, allowing Katakuri to transform his environment into Mochi as well, which therefore allows him to control that Mochi outside of his body for numerous techniques. One potential technique I feel the user could do with this awakening would be making the ground underneath their opponent Mochi, and using that Mochi to pull them into the ground. Now, I don't know if awakened users have the ability to just transform the environment back to normal, but if you could, then you've successfully trapped that enemy underneath the ground.
And then you turn it to normal, and then they're dead. Yeah.
Or if that's not possible, you just keep them stuck within the Mochi until they eventually suffocate.
Yeah.
And this is also just scratching the surface with possibilities, because with the awakening and just its normal abilities, this fruit is probably one of the most versatile we've ever seen. So without going any further, my main reason for placing this devil fruit on the list is because of how well-rounded its abilities are. It can attack and defend in numerous different ways at both close and long distances. And with the addition of that awakening, it makes the offense
Katakuri's mental. Like, look at that. He's attacking him from a distance while he's trapped. It's like, Jesus.
Devil fruits out there. And I can't see very many situations where other devil fruits would be able to take this one down. And in a battle for the devil fruits that are the absolute best, the fruits that can come out on top in the most situations are generally the ones that deserve the title. So because of how useful, versatile, and powerful this devil fruit can be in the majority of situations, I believe it deserves a spot in the top 10 of the
Trafalgar
very
Law's
best. Coming in at number 9.
Devil fruit's got to be on here at some point.
The Ito Ito no Mi, or String fruit. This devil fruit was consumed by Don Quixote Doflamingo. This devil fruit is a paramecia type that allows the user to create and manipulate strings.
He was something else with this.
All aware,
he can control the
has
people.
A wide variety of uses. And if I were to cover them all similar to the previous fruit, we'd be stuck on this one for over 20 minutes.
My god.
By themselves, the strings can be used for various attacks, including string bullets, string whips, gigantic nets,
it's too much. It's too much.
Strings were shown to be capable of cutting through almost anything they came across, aside from a few objects like very powerful swords and sea stone or Haki. Speaking of Haki, all of these string attacks can also be imbued with Haki to make them
that's
even
crazy.
More powerful. And the fact that these strings are also so
the
thin
user
makes
can
them
learn
hard to see
to.
during a fight,
I love how these devil fruit things work. You're not just stuck to the abilities. You can learn to progress.
Defensive or tactical uses. For instance, we have Doflamingo's ability to fly by attaching his strings to clouds or nearby buildings. The ability to make and control an entire identical clone of himself, which also has the ability to use string attacks.
And then he repaired his heart. There we go. With strings, that was like,
together,
whoa.
Such as holding his organs in place so that they can heal after taking a deadly internal attack. And he also has the ability to control multiple other people at once.
Which is crazy. Absolutely crazy.
This ability alone was able to provide Doflamingo the means to take over an entire country overnight. And once these strings are attached, he basically has full control over that person's body no matter what. If that wasn't enough, we also have the birdcage, which is made up of such powerful strings that anyone, and I mean anyone trapped behind the strings, will eventually be cut to shreds. Even a Navy admiral was hopeless against the strings.
Yeah, he was pushing it back. Yeah, but the barriers didn't get sliced, did they?
Implying that these strings cannot be destroyed or stopped unless you take out Doflamingo himself. And if all that weren't enough, this devil fruit is also awakened. allowing Doflamingo to transform his surroundings into large masses of strings for him to control.
Crazy.
Which he can also imbue with Hobie to make them even stronger than they already are.
Jesus.
So basically my point with this one would be the fact that it's already extremely useful, offensively, defensively, and tactically similar to the Mochi Mochi.
Yeah, it's quite similar
However,
to the Mochi.
this one just happens to offer a bit more in terms of its overall versatility. My best examples to support that being the birdcage, the ability to control a string clone, along with just controlling other people, and the ability to fly around on these strings from above. These abilities give Doflamingo the added edge in most fights
he is dangerous
would otherwise be at a disadvantage.
Can't wait to see what happens with him
If his opponent doesn't know
next.
he can control people, they won't be expecting him to target their necks. And if Doflamingo is able to hit his target, his enemy is now completely under his control, which is basically game over. If that fails, he can also create a clone of himself to fight instead, working together with his clone to take an enemy down, or as his worst case scenario, he could just fly up into the sky and unleash the birdcage. If his opponent doesn't have any way to fly up there and stop him, or
then
have
what are they
any
going to do?
sort of
What are they going to do?
projectiles
They're
to
just
shoot
trapped.
him down, they're just straight up
Yeah.
And that's not even bringing into consideration the awakened abilities, which just makes everything that much more impossible to deal with. So no matter how you look at it, this Devil Fruit is one of the best out there. It can already be extremely deadly with normal attacks, considering the strings are basically indestructible in most cases. But with all the added abilities, it just makes this Devil Fruit something
ridiculous,
to be
isn't it?
truly feared. Number 7.
What we got next?
The Gura Gura no Mi, or Tremor Tremor Fruit. This Devil Fruit was
Wait, that's only
originally
this...
consumed by Whitebeard,
I
but
thought it
has
was like
since been
the
stolen
most
by
powerful...
Blackbeard. This Devil Fruit is a Paramecia type that gives its user the ability to
I thought this would have been
massive
higher on the list.
shockwaves
This is
that can
interesting,
travel through
okay.
the air, ground, or sea,
Huh.
or essentially through any medium. This Devil Fruit is pretty straightforward in the fact that it's been said to have the ability to destroy the world.
Yeah.
And from the
So,
short glimpse of its abilities
why
that
is
were
it-
given at Marineford,
Huh.
this seems to be a factual statement.
Yeah,
As
it
we saw
absolutely
that
annihilates the
Whitebeard was
place.
able to grab and shift the air, which caused an entire island to basically be destroyed.
Yeah, it's
If you
ridiculous.
can cause that much destruction by just shifting
So
around
what's
the
higher
air
than
a little
this?
bit, I think it's safe to assume that this fruit could cause even more damage than what we've already seen.
Definitely,
to
yeah,
the
yeah.
point where it could indeed destroy
the
entire
world, yeah.
So basically, my sole reason for putting this one on the list is because of how devastatingly powerful this Devil Fruit is.
Yes,
I'd even
but-
argue it's probably the strongest Devil Fruit we've seen thus far in terms of causing pure destruction. But unfortunately, although it is very powerful, its downfalls prevent it from being any higher than 7
okay.
on our list of the best. Sure, it has an insane amount of power behind it, which is enough to make the list, but the fact of the matter is, this fruit could end up killing both friend and foe alike because of how unpredictable its attacks are, even going as far to potentially harm the user themselves if they aren't careful, essentially meaning that this one is the ultimate double-edged sword. Obviously, you can create smaller or even concentrated tremors to direct the damage, but if you really needed to go all out, it could turn into quite the disaster fairly quickly. So because this Devil Fruit has
at
the
least he's
ability
given...
to destroy
Oh,
the
mate,
world
because I thought this was
itself,
going to be,
but
like,
with a lot of
right
risk
up there.
behind it will remain here at number 7 of the best Devil Fruits.
Fair enough, okay.
Number 6, the Yami Yami no Mi, or Dark Dark Fruit.
The Dark
This Devil
Fruit.
Fruit was consumed by
Blackbeard.
This Devil Fruit is a Logia type that allows its user to create, control, and potentially transform into darkness itself, including the additional ability to control the properties of gravity. Now, as a little disclaimer, there is another Devil Fruit that can control the properties of gravity, that fruit being Fujitora's. And while Fujitora's Devil Fruit is a very powerful and useful one, it will not be featured on this list because it can only control gravity. While the Yami Yami no Mi can
do that and
gravity,
more,
along with having a wide variety of other useful abilities to accompany it. So while Fujitora's Devil Fruit is the superior of the two when it comes to just gravity-related abilities, and that one is also extremely good in my opinion, the fact that the Yami Yami no Mi has other abilities in addition to gravity is what makes it vastly superior in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that.
When it comes to what exactly
if you've got the same ability and then some more stuff on top.
Blackbeard has demonstrated it numerous times by using the gravity power to pull people towards him. The only issue with this is that the gravity pull isn't extremely fast, so if his opponent has enough time to react, they can counterattack before they actually reach Blackbeard. However, one thing to note is that this gravity is absolute, so if Blackbeard is pulling you towards him, you cannot escape that gravitational pull, but you can counterattack before you actually reach Blackbeard himself. That being said, if Blackbeard is successful in pulling them towards him, his Devil Fruit has the added ability of nullifying Devil Fruit powers with the darkness.
And can't he
so upon being
use it
grabbed
whilst
by
touching
Blackbeard's
them?
hand, he is free to attack them with all his might,
Damn.
bypassing any abilities his opponent might have regardless of what Devil Fruit type they are, and preventing them from using any abilities while they are in contact with him. Which is most useful against Logia types who
Definitely, because then they can't transform,
However, now that hockey is a thing and everyone and their mother has it, Logia fruits are just kind of a joke in general these days.
Yeah.
In addition to that, the user can also spread his darkness within a large area, which will suck anything it touches into an empty void.
Jeez, it is powerful, isn't it?
This also includes people, by the way.
Yeah,
Blackbeard
look at that.
will later release anything that he sucked up previously as an attack by itself. So already this fruit sounds very powerful, which it is, to the point where you'd think it should be a little bit higher on the list, in fact. However, with all those great and powerful abilities, it does have a few drawbacks which prevent it from going any further. The main drawback being that the darkness in question sucks everything in. And for that reason, it also sucks in any attacks that hit the user, to the point where it causes significantly more damage to the user than the same attack would to any other person.
Right.
Now, you'd think Blackbeard could just turn into darkness like any other Logia and dodge
just,
that attack, but as far as we've seen, because the darkness sucks everything in like we just said, this simply is not possible. And instead, Blackbeard is really only able to
there's some downfalls he needs to learn to
overcome that, yeah. But this is still something that could be possible depending on the circumstances, but with the knowledge we already have, this makes it a bit lacking compared to the other Logia types.
Right.
Additionally, to actually nullify a Devil Fruit user's abilities, he has to remain in contact with them the entire time. So unless he can get close to the enemy or bring them in contact with him, he's susceptible to taking some serious hits.
Yep.
With all that knowledge about its strengths and weaknesses, I feel most of you are probably understanding of why I put it where I did on the list.
Yeah, that's fair.
However, one thing I also need to mention is the theory that this Devil Fruit might be the reason Blackbeard was able to gain the power of a second Devil Fruit.
Yeah.
There's already a ton of theories out there about how Blackbeard was able to do this, such as the Cerberus theory, the theory about his rings, etc. But it's also possible that the Yami Yami no Mi itself is what made this possible.
Yeah.
Because it sucks
don't
everything in.
know.
It's also possible it could suck in
Devil
another
Fruit.
Devil Fruit,
Yeah.
allowing the user the ability to use that fruit
as well.
If that does end up being the case, when this mystery is finally
That would be
solved
number 1.
within the manga, this Devil Fruit would automatically skip from number 6, where it sits right now, all the way up to number 1 as the very best
My
Devil
God,
Fruit
if that
out
is
there.
what it gets,
It's
we need
already
to know.
insanely
We need to know
useful
what
and
happened,
insanely
man.
strong. But if it also has the ability to absorb other Devil Fruit powers, allowing the user to have
no one
those
else
other
can do that.
abilities, this fruit is easily the best one out there. No contest.
Crazy.
But because that's just a theory for
I
now,
never thought about the
it will
rings.
remain here at number 6. But depending on the outcome of that mystery, the Yami Yami no Mi could have the potential to be number 1. Number 5. The Hobie Hobie no Mi, or Hobby Hobby fruit. This Devil Fruit was consumed by sugar. This Devil Fruit is a paramecia type.
It's
that allows the user
ridiculous,
to turn
this.
people into toys
Touch someone,
simply
turn them
by
into a
touching
toy.
them, with the added effect of erasing that person from everyone's memories as
yeah,
if
as well.
they
So
never
what?
existed. This fruit also has the additional effect of granting the user eternal youth, or essentially keeping their physical body the same age as when they consumed the fruit. So, by that short description right there, this one kind of speaks for itself. But to be thorough with my explanations and opinions, this one is without a doubt one of the most broken abilities
It is
in the
ridiculous.
series. You touch someone, they become a toy. They essentially no longer exist. It's absolute. This ability alone is enough to take down anyone, and I mean anyone.
You can literally just touch anybody.
World, including the Yonko,
Could you imagine
the
if she
admirals,
did?
even the former Pirate King himself would be helpless against this ability. And because toys are naturally much weaker than a person, and are therefore much easier to destroy, you could simply turn anyone into a toy and then just break them, killing them in the process.
Could you imagine?
This means that this ability alone could take down anyone, which is more than enough for it to be considered one of the best. Another thing to note would be that the user of this fruit is also able to give the transformed toy a contract, essentially giving them a set of rules that they must follow no matter what, which is also absolute once the contract has been given. So you could basically transform someone and then give them a contract like, you must obey all of my commands, and you must allow me to kill you whenever I want, which the toy will have no choice but to submit to all their orders, including its own death, because these toys cannot go against whatever this contract is.
Crazy.
The only catch with this being that the user needs to give the contract as soon as they transform them into a toy.
Yeah, that's why he was able to get away, not, do
escape
stuff he did, because he didn't have a contract put on him.
Yeah. But then they're still just a toy, and you really can't do much except, be a toy.
Yeah.
With such a broken ability like this
it's
one,
crazy.
Some of you might even be questioning how this Devil Fruit isn't number 1, or higher up than just 5 for that matter. And while normally the ability of this one could be enough to make it to at least the top 3, it unfortunately has a few extreme drawbacks. The first being the Eternal Youth, which could either be an immense blessing or a massive curse, depending on what age you consume the fruit.
Right.
Sugar, for instance, ate the fruit when she was only 10 years old, meaning that she
she's
will
forever to
forever
look like
physically
10.
be
Yeah.
10 years old, even when she's 100. And while being 10 years old has an advantage of its own, as most people wouldn't expect a 10-year-old child as their enemy, this unfortunately limits Sugar's physical abilities for the rest of her life.
I mean, she's
and because
fast.
of that, she could be bested in physical combat by basically any competent fighter, as most people out there could beat the life out of a 10-year-old pretty easily. However, on the other side of things, if the user were to have eaten this fruit at the ripe age of, let's say, 25 for instance, they would forever be in their physical prime.
Yeah, that's cool.
And therefore could become physically strong for the rest of their life, in addition to having an absolutely broken ability, which really would make this fruit even better. However, because this Eternal Youth can be a bit circumstantial, it has an equal chance of being a massive downfall.
Yeah.
The real downfall comes from the fact that you need to physically touch the individual with your hands.
There's that.
And only your
It'd be
hands
so
can
ridiculously
toy.
broken if you could just
For
look
one,
at somebody.
Most people aren't going to let an enemy get close enough for you to touch them, especially if they are aware of what your ability does.
Definitely.
Secondly,
keep your distance, attack from a distance.
Only works with the touch of your hands. All someone would need to do is
cut
chop
off your
off
hands.
both of your hands to stop you forever. As without your hands, you could never turn anyone
God,
into
could you
a toy
imagine?
again, making this ability worthless other than being forever young. Additionally, if the user gets knocked out, everyone they turned into a toy will go back to normal.
Yeah.
But like I said earlier, if you were to simply just turn people into a toy and then kill them immediately, you'd kinda get past that problem.
Yeah.
So the bottom line with this one, it is by far the most broken ability we've seen in One Piece.
It's
and if
ridiculous.
this fruit was consumed by someone who was physically strong and at a good age, this Devil Fruit could
it would just
easily
add
be
to it, wouldn't it?
borderline unstoppable. But because it could be consumed by anyone at any age, and it can only be used with the touch of your hand, it unfortunately has some drawbacks.
Yeah, it does.
That I just
Yeah, he's right.
overlook.
Yeah.
Especially when a lot of Devil Fruits out there deal specifically with long-range abilities that could prevent the user of this fruit from ever getting close enough to transform.
Yeah,
them
you put him
into a
against
toy.
the guy with the
Either way,
barriers,
though,
she ain't getting
this
anywhere near
fruit
him,
is
and then
easily
just
one of the best
push
ones
you
out
away.
there, no matter how you look at it. So it will come in at the middle of our list at number 5. Number 4. The Nikyu no Mi, or Pom-Pom
Kumas.
Fruit. This Devil Fruit was consumed by Bartholomew Kuma. This Devil Fruit is a Paramecia type that allows the user to essentially repel anything that they touch, which is done with the paw prints on the user's hands. When I say repel basically
I'm liking
anything,
that we're getting
I
an
mean
explanation on this.
anything. From the air itself, any oncoming attacks, including objects like swords, and even things like the physical sensation of pain
Oh
itself.
my god, yeah.
So it's safe to say this Devil Fruit can do a lot of things that we likely haven't even seen yet. Like, for instance, if given the chance, this Devil Fruit could potentially be able to repel other physical sensations, like going up to somebody and repelling their sensation of touch, taste, smell, sound, etc.
Never thought about that, yeah.
Or maybe it could
Jesus,
go as
could you
far
imagine?
to have the potential to repel life itself, basically being able to repel an enemy's life right out of their body upon contact.
Ooh.
Just something to consider, but we will not be taking that as fact.
Yeah,
But
whoa,
if
yeah,
that
because we
were
haven't seen
possible,
it,
this
but
fruit
my god.
easily
Could you
be in the
imagine?
top 3. But based on what we have actually seen, these paws are able to already stop and repel any attack, regardless of what it is, so long as the attack touches the paws. So automatically this fruit has an absolute defense.
Yeah,
but because
that's absolutely
this
sick.
defensive area is limited to the paws on the user's hands, if he isn't fast enough to block an attack with the paws, he'd still take the attack head on.
Yeah, right,
Luckily
okay.
for Kuma in particular, his cyborg body helps him tank any attack he fails to block. But for
Pretty
any
beefy,
other
isn't he,
potential
like?
user of this fruit, that's not exactly an option. But at least we know with physical enhancement this weakness can be somewhat overcome. But in addition to that already great defense, this Devil Fruit also has an immense amount of power behind it. Like we said, Kuma can repel anything, so the possibilities are already endless.
Yeah.
And we could probably sit here all day coming up with
ideas of things he could repel, yeah.
But just going off of what we've actually seen Kuma repel, I already have more than enough to argue his place on this list. First off, his ability to make the air itself a deadly weapon is already extremely impressive. With that alone, he basically always has a lethal weapon.
Yeah, he's always got something to attack with,
no matter where he goes, he will always have air at his disposal. But when it comes to the air that he repels it at the speed of light itself, or very close to it, which would be basically impossible for almost anyone to dodge. And as we saw, once this air actually strikes somebody, the shockwave it creates is enough to take out even some of the strongest enemies in a single hit.
Down.
He can also repel the air in a different way, and this technique is called the Ursus shock. By compressing a great amount of air down into a single air paw, once that paw eventually makes contact, the air quickly decompresses and creates a shockwave that's large enough to cover the entirety of Thriller Bark, with a force strong enough to take out an enemy like Ors Jr. in a single hit. Essentially meaning he's already packing a miniature nuke with just the air alone. The only downfall with this technique is that it takes a little bit of time to actually prepare it.
So you see him doing that and you just go at him.
Could propel for attacks, but the air itself is really all you need to make this one of the best Devil Fruits out there. The other possibilities are just a huge bonus at this point. If that wasn't enough to prove my point, Kuma can also use this ability to propel himself, to the point where it appears as though he's teleporting from place to place, which is because he repels himself so
he's not
quickly.
actually that fast,
He can also repel other people, by sending them to any location of his choosing simply by touching them, and this repelling occurs over the course of 3 days
what's going
and 3
on?
nights. So if Kuma really wanted, he could simply repel or teleport himself to an enemy, and then repel that enemy directly into the furthest reaches of the ocean, leaving them to drown all alone.
Yeah, you think about what he could potentially do. Jesus, yeah.
So this Devil Fruit is fast, it's very strong, and it can block any attack. And it can also just yeet people out of the way at any time, making this fruit easily one of the strongest and most versatile.
Crazy.
The only real downfall of this fruit is the fact that the user can only repel things from the paws on his hands.
So if you chop off his hands,
similar to the Hobie no Mi, if you were to cut off his hands somehow, this power would be useless. But unlike the Hobie no Mi, this fruit has a lot more potential abilities, a lot of which are at a longer range,
attack range,
which is why I had to place this one above it.
Definitely, I get that.
It was a bit hard for me to do considering how broken the Hobie no Mi is. Even so, I do believe the Nikyu no Mi is one of the most dangerous and versatile fruits out there, with a ton of different abilities.
Yeah, and now he's just being ridden like a little bear by celestial dragons. It's like, oh my god.
Making it, without a doubt, one of the best Devil Fruits in the series, coming in at number 4.
That's number 4, what's number 3?
Number 3. The Ape no Mi, or Op fruit. This Devil Fruit was
I told you, it needs to be up there.
This Devil Fruit allows the user to create a spherical area of varying distances, dubbed a room. Within this room, the user essentially has the ability to control the placement, alteration, and orientation of anything or anyone within that room. To give some examples of what I mean, the user can chop up people's bodies and rearrange them in any way he pleases.
It's crazy.
Which includes removing organs, such as the heart, along with attaching people to various objects. The user can switch people's personalities, switch items with another to make them appear as if they are teleporting, essentially use telepathy to move objects around, along with creating things like energy blades and extremely high voltage shocks.
It's crazy.
All while within this room, of course. So plain and simple, this fruit gives the user the ability to surgically operate on anything trapped within this room, including the user's own body. As a little background, this fruit is said to be worth at least 5 billion berries, as that is what the Marines were willing to pay to get their hands on it. As this fruit is essentially a thing of miracles, as in the past, a high-profile doctor who had this fruit's abilities was capable of performing miraculous surgeries that cured some diseases that were dubbed uncurable, among other things. So with a power like that, this fruit could obviously be used
it
for
can
some
give someone immortality,
things,
can't it?
such as removing the hearts of 100 pirates.
Regardless,
though, it's also been mentioned that this Devil Fruit's full potential can only be utilized if the user has some sort of medical knowledge. The more, the better. For that reason, if the user was lacking medical knowledge, this would be
you wouldn't have a clue what you're doing,
drawback. Other drawbacks from this fruit include the fact that using this Devil Fruit's power for a long period of time will severely deplete the user's stamina. And if the user were to use an extremely large room for an extended period of time, it could even affect the user's own lifespan.
Yeah,
so
wow,
the user needs to be somewhat cautious when it comes to using this ability.
You can't just go all out constantly with it.
This fruit also has a miracle surgery of sorts, where it can grant another individual eternal life, but at the cost of the user.
And that's the thing, how do they know that?
So as a last
I like
resort,
that, I might have touched on that. It's like,
immortal,
it must have been done
because
before.
it ends up killing the user in the process, I guess I'd still consider it a drawback, even though, it could be useful. Truth be told, though, the reason this devil fruit is so high up on the list is simply due to the sheer number of things it can do, from its core abilities to
it's
the
very,
numerous
very
techniques that
useful.
lock it within the room. For instance, his Gamma Knife is powerful enough to destroy someone's internal organs with a single attack. But with teleportation, cutting a person in pieces, switching personalities, you name it, this fruit has so many possibilities within that room to best their opponent. Many of which we probably haven't even seen before. This fruit can be used for offensive, defensive, and tactical techniques, many in each category, making it one of the most well-rounded already. But when you consider how useful some of these abilities are, it just makes the fruit just that much more impressive. And since the room itself can be a variety of different sizes,
he's very knowledgeable with like surgery and that, so
you could come up with a wide variety of strategies.
It's a very valid point. If someone that doesn't have any knowledge has this, then
cutting an entire mountain
yeah, look at that.
Half,
that's sick.
Or,
that is
sick.
sick.
Up an entire squad of Marines and turning them into Alabama incest kids. The possibilities are endless, especially for a doctor, as this fruit can also be used as a way to heal anybody, including yourself.
Very, very handy to have. Very handy.
Because if you get wrecked, you just fix yourself up, you're good to go.
Woohoo.
So because this fruit is essentially one of the best when it comes to everything it's capable of, and everything it could be capable of, I have no choice but to recognize this fruit as one of the best, as the miracle fruit.
That was sick, that. He's like,
putting it in
you can't even,
three.
you're not going to do it. Even your sword can't cut through my haki, and then he just does it.
For this one, we have our first and only tie. That being between the Pikapika no Mi or Glint Glint fruit and the Goro Goro no Mi or Rumble Rumble fruit. Each of these fruits have an extensive list of abilities that we could spend a while going into, but I'll try to keep this one somewhat shorter since we've already spent so much time on some of the others. But basically, the Pikapika no Mi is a Logia-type devil fruit that allows the user to create, control, and transform into light itself.
Which is
and the Goro Goro no Mi is also
lightning.
A Logia-type devil fruit that allows the user to create,
He
control,
has to come
and
back at some
transform
point. Oh my
into
god.
lightning. I was recently on a podcast where we ended up having to put these two fruits against each other, and it really got me thinking as to which of these two fruits is actually the superior. Personally, my instincts lean towards the Pikapika no Mi, but at the end of the day, these two devil fruits are pretty neck and neck in a lot of ways, which is why I decided upon a tie for the number 2
That's
spot.
fair enough.
My main reason for this is because both of these devil fruits are as fast and powerful as they come. Inel can travel at the speed of lightning, which is about 220 million miles per hour, while Kizaru can travel at the speed of light, which is 670,616,629 miles per hour. So based on that assumption, the Pikapika no Mi is the faster of the two and can therefore pack more of a punch with the force behind each of his attacks, but being 1/3 the speed of light with lightning is not something that should be pushed aside by any means. In fact, I think the Goro Goro no Mi makes up for its lack of speed, though, saying lack of speed when it's that fast is kind of ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
But it makes up for that with its various other abilities, such as being able to electrocute people upon contact, merge with solid matter, and even use his voltage to jumpstart his heart, among other things. Where, on the contrary, the Pikapika no Mi is made up of almost exclusively offensive and defensive abilities.
Yeah, it's
so
got
in that
nothing else
sense,
going
I feel
on,
the two of them kind of even out.
Yeah.
And when it comes to pure destructive power, I feel like both of them are also quite equal. Kizaru can shoot lasers that burn right through people upon contact, or he can punch or kick people at the speed of light, which theoretically packs over 31 sextillion pounds of force. That's a lot of frickin' zeros, boys. And he can also create
show how strong that guy is if he's able to stand up for it.
31 sextillion pounds of force was not enough to convince you.
Yeah.
Whereas Enel is able to strike people with lightning at the voltage of his choosing, the maximum of which is 200 million volts, which would basically fry any average person to ash in a matter of seconds. Additionally, he can also decide upon the size of a lightning bolt and essentially strike you from anywhere within the size of an entire island. Obviously, the force from a light speed kick and 200 million volts would eradicate anybody, but of course, this is anime, so the physics behind these attacks don't necessarily carry over. But the bottom line with both of these devil fruits is that they are as fast as they come, and also each having their own unique properties. the Goro no Mi having a bit more to offer with versatility. But at the end of the day, both of these fruits have the potential to be the fastest devil fruits out there, in addition to each having their own immensely powerful and destructive techniques. And for that reason, I believe the two of them are equal in their own ways. And both
I'm not
of
arguing
them have
with
the potential to be not only some of the
what's
most
number
powerful
one?
devil fruits, but also some of the best devil fruits in the series.
I actually have no clue.
Now the moment that you've all been waiting for. Number 1. The Tori no Mi Model Phoenix. This devil fruit was consumed by Marco. This devil fruit is a mythical Zoan type that allows the user to transform into a phoenix. Now, I feel like this may be considered a controversial pick, especially for number 1.
Right.
But you'll just have to hear me out on this one.
Go on.
In general, I feel like most Zoan fruits kinda get a bad rap. You can transform into your respective animal, or in between, and you get a strength boost.
Yeah.
For most of them, that's as far as it goes. The ancient and mythical Zoans, however, have some very unique abilities to accompany them. But out of all the mythical and ancient Zoans we've seen thus far, the Phoenix fruit is by far the best.
Yeah.
My main reason for believing this is because this is the only devil fruit we've seen thus far throughout the entire series that has the characteristics of every single devil fruit type. Let me explain.
Go on.
For the Zoan category, Marco can of course transform into a phoenix, or transform parts of his body into a phoenix, which includes granting him a strength boost, the ability to fly, and also sharp talons. The Phoenix fruit also allows Marco to generate blue flames similar to a Logia, which also grants him the properties of regeneration and healing like a Paramecia. So right off the bat, it already has Zoan, Paramecia, and Logia-like abilities. But these blue flames aren't exactly hot. However, they are able to go up against some of the hottest elements on equal footing, such as Sakazuki's Magma or Kizaru's Light. In general, though, these blue flames allow Marco to just straight up regenerate any wounds that he receives, regardless of what they are. However, there is a limit to how much he is able to regenerate, though we've never actually seen him hit this limit, meaning it's likely after a lot of regenerating. Because he can regenerate like this, the user is also able to take an immense amount of damage and come back like nothing happened. Even being able to let attacks pass right through his body like Logia, because his body feels so wriggly to the point where it really doesn't even affect him letting those attacks pass through. Examples of this happening were regular bullets, or even with Kizaru's lasers. So even some of the most destructive elements are no match for these flames. Additionally, because these flames have regenerative abilities, the user is also able to use them to heal others. So the point I'm trying to make with all this is that this devil fruit is easily the best one, simply because of its wide range of abilities and
this list, I didn't expect this list to be this order, but he's explained it.
It can go up against some of the most destructive fruits like the Magu no Mi and Pikapika no Mi and come out unfazed, while other characters with powerful fruits were straight up killed in comparison. But on top of all that, the fruit also grants its user the ability to fly, giving its user increased mobility. All the while, this devil fruit doesn't seem to have a single weakness or drawback, aside from its regeneration having a limit, which we've never even seen it reach before. And if we want to include theories to make it even better than it already is, we can also assume that perhaps upon death itself, the user would be reborn through the ashes, as Phoenix are known to be reborn from ashes once they die, meaning this fruit could possibly even cheat death itself. We've talked about a lot of great fruits today, and deciding which make the cut and which don't
was cool. This was a really good list.
But one thing I was sure of the entire time is that this fruit is truly the best one we've seen thus far. And hopefully my arguments
was not
for
expecting
that statement have
this.
been enough to at least make you understand why I think that way, even if you don't necessarily agree. So with that, the Tori no Mi Model Phoenix is my number 1 pick for the best devil fruit in One Piece.
Cool.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video today, and hopefully you agreed with my list, or at least understood where I was coming from. Obviously, we all have our own opinions, but I would love to hear yours. Be sure to comment what your list would be and why in the comments down below. Also be sure to smack that like button to show me you want more of these top 10s, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. It's going to be a hot minute before the next One Piece related one, because there's some other top 10s related to other anime that I've been putting off for a while that I want to get to next. But you can bet your ass that there will be more One Piece top 10s in the future. And with that, be sure to let me know which type of top 10s you would like to see next. Follow me on Twitter at 2SpookyTube to keep up with the channel. Follow me on Twitch at 2Spookster to hang out in some streams. And before we go, I just wanted to thank you all so much from the very bottom of my heart.
There's a lot more than that now.
350,000 subscribers. Your guys' support means everything to me, and I promise you I'm eternally grateful for this opportunity that you've given me.
Bam. That was really good. I was not expecting the list to go that way, especially with Whitebeard's Delphi Billy Bean at number 7. I was just like, whoa. I knew Law's was going to be high up, but then Marco's, it makes sense. Like, he explained it all. It was cool. He went through all the drawbacks and that. That was class. So, that was cool. I think I'm going to check out, like, a Too Spooky video weekly now. I'm so glad I'm caught up nearly with One Piece. It's so fun and there's just so much to check out. It's awesome. Can't wait to start checking out theory videos as well. So anyway, thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video, we upload links in the description to the Patreon page. $1 a month is all that helps support the channel. That is greatly appreciated. And thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe, and leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos. And I'll see you guys next time.